So the mayor is actually here. She's sitting at a table over there. We actually got a chance to sit down with her earlier this week.
Sure did.
And we were talking about some of the issues that the Maplewood residents and our Sunrisers brought to our attention that we actually brought to the mayor. And one of the biggest ones that the mayor understands too is Maplewood Mall and how malls around the country and even in our state, they're starting to lose a lot of business and stores are closing.
They're closing. You know, no doubt Maplewood Mall had Sears leave.
Right.
That's a big tenant there, some other closures as well. So the mayor was telling us, yeah, she knows that the mall needs some fine tuning. So the city tells us they're working hard to figure out what the mall can be in the future. Mayor Abrams says they brought in a consulting firm that's doing a study about what options are out there to change up the mall, and they already have a few ideas in mind.
I've always envisioned let's do a farmer's market or something like Keg and Case, you know, in the old Sears building. The thing is that it's privately owned. But as a city, we can certainly help in terms of, do we need to look at some rezoning? What are some possibilities for redevelopment of that mall?
So right now, city staff is working with developers who have interest in the mall, and the study with what residents and developers want, that should be ready by this summer.
Yeah, and Keg and Case, if you haven't been there, it's a great location. If they could turn the mall into something like that, that would be so great for the city because we know that place is doing really well. And the mayor also mentioned that they have new means of transportation being built here. The Rush Line should be here in a few years, and she was telling us that would be crucial for Maplewood Mall's future success.
Absolutely.